Welcome, everyone, to the SoCal Car Scene Podcast, the exclusive place for coverage of car culture in Southern California and the personalities that drive it. I'm your host, Dean Marash. Please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, the SoCal Car Scene, because you never want to miss an episode. Joining us today is the owner of Classic Car Studio, Noah Alexander. But before I get started, I need to let you know that this podcast is brought to you by our good friends at CTEK and Wicked Automotive Detailing. Let me take a minute and introduce you to this amazing, cool dude, Noah Alexander. Noah is the owner of Classic Car Studio and embodies Midwestern car culture. Raised in the Chicago and St. Louis areas, he attended the University of Michigan before he realized he should be making a living in the car world, first by buying and selling classics, and then building, fabricating, and restoring them. And my guess is you've seen a number of his amazing builds. Since 2006, his St. Louis-based Classic Car Studio Speed Shop has made a name for itself as a builder of high-performance machines that combines classic lines with the best of modern technology. More often than not, Alexander and his team find themselves looking around across oceans and far-flung corners of the world, and certainly the United States, for inspiration. You may have seen him on his TV show, Speed is the New Black, on Motor Trend TV. Hey, Noah, thanks for joining us on the SoCal Car Scene Podcast.
Thanks for having me. Thank you. Fun to be here.
Awesome, dude. Awesome,
Looking
dude.
forward to it.
Hey, so in the world of coincidences or coinkydinks, depending on how you pronounce that,
Right.
believe it or not, our podcast guest last week, his name is Noah, and it was Noah Ellis. He's a well-known artist who painted the Suki car in Too Fast, Too Furious.
Yeah, there you go.
How often?
There's more Noahs than there used to be. I used to be the only Noah out there as a child, but now it seems like other people have taken to this name, which I thought was all mine in the world of John.
Do you think it's a compliment? I mean, like as you've gotten older and successful now, people are like, I want to be not only like Noah, but I want to be named after him.
I don't think they're naming their children after me. But that being said, it's more confusing because as a kid, if someone said my name, I knew they were calling my name. If they're yelling out John or Eric or Charlie or whatever, it could have been anyone. So now every once in a while in the store, I'll whip around and there'll be some lady yelling at a child that's named Noah as well.
Hey, that happened to me the other day. I was over at Nordstrom Rack because I can't afford the regular Nordstrom. And
always go to the rack.
Guy with the little baby in the baby buggy, and he's like, and he asked for my name, and I told him it was Dean. He says, "No way, well, it's nice to meet you, Dean." And the wife comes up, "Your name is Dean too?" And I'm like, apparently it's a thing now.
It's a thing.
I'm so old that my name is retro. Great.
They come back. It's making a comeback. Dean's a good name though. So.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I love Noah. Hey, it's this time of season. So, the reason why you and I got connected, believe it or not, you can blame or credit one of our most fun tandem couples that we've done on our podcast here at SoCal Car Scene is Doug and Marisa Campbell. We had them out in our warehouse during the summer with their incredible cars from Superformance, and they're like, "Oh my God, you gotta talk to Noah and his team. They're great people. You'd have a lot of fun. They got an awesome shop. Those guys got energy 10 times mine." So
it's all the energy drinks. I don't know if it's actually them. We'll say it's them, but I think it's the energy drink.
So you're thinking Red Bull is driving a lot of that? Is that what's going on?
It's the healthy lifestyle, the energy drinks, but it's all good vibes from them. They're hilarious. I met them at SEMA a couple years ago. We had a vehicle in the MagnaFlow booth, and they also had a vehicle in the MagnaFlow booth, and we hit it off immediately. They're my kind of people, so
they're awesome. My wife and I have talked about double dating them once with them.
Yeah,
I better be clear. Once the pandemic's over, but what the hell? It may never be over. So we may never see anybody ever again. So let's just
I hope not.
Zoom thing. I don't know what the hell. So I got to confess though, one thing happened. I'm like all excited about you. I've seen your cars. I saw your car at SEMA in 2016, right? That truck is incredible. And I'm like, where have I seen? And I started looking at your cars as I got prepared. I'm like, holy crap, I've seen that truck before. Where'd I seen it? So I'm like, SoCal, was it at the car shows? And I'm like, SEMA, that's it. They're freaking
SEMA,
amazing, dude. Well done.
Yeah. We do SEMA every year. It's good. We usually try to bring a couple of vehicles there. And we've been doing that since, let's say 2015, 2016. We first started, we've been going, and then we started building some cool stuff. And from there, it's like you got to hustle every year and get something in the show, because it's such a, going there is incredible, but having something in the show makes it a whole lot more fun. There's some stuff to compete for, and just kind of, it's always a good conversation starter. You get to talk to a lot more people, which is one of the best things about SEMA, when you actually have a vehicle in the show.
Yeah, so it's kind of brand awareness, getting your name out there. It's not much lead gen as it is about getting your style and your influence on the fab and build scene, right?
Yeah, it's great. It's a lot of it gets picked up by press here and there, so it's one of those things where, like I said, you put in we always say in the end, you're kind of trying to impress other industry people at SEMA.
Right.
But that being said, a lot of SEMA builds show up, in the press afterwards, and they kind of take a nice run around the internet for a while, after being at SEMA.
Right.
And people always remember them. They'll always say, "Hey, I saw you guys at SEMA in 2017 with, this vehicle. That thing was so cool." So it's always a reference point that comes up, whether you're at a Good Guys show or, at SEMA again the following year. I think it's a powerful thing, a good thing.
Yeah. So, I think the same thing, especially for, very influential builders like your shop. But what happens when there is no SEMA like 2020? Is it kind of a sigh of relief on one hand, or is it like, oh crap, how do we get that kind of everybody in the same fishbowl type visibility? Or, what was your guys' take in response?
I don't want to speak for everybody in the industry, but my guess is that it was kind of a little bit of relief, just because you didn't have to get it all together. And it's not easy, because you have, with normal builds, you have a kind of a normal pace you can go with, and it's not going to SEMA. So you've got a little more wiggle room with the customer to drive it and get it right, and, make sure everything works perfectly, and test it some more. And we spent a lot of time doing that. But with SEMA, you have to have the vehicle at the show. So there's just, right around it, the SEMA crunch is a real thing. I don't know why it has to work that way every year, but it always does. So not having to do that this year was, I feel like it was a nice kind of weight lifted off of our shoulders. And my guess is that other people in the industry feel the same.
Yeah, I bet. So can I confess one thing? I didn't know you guys, and you in particular, had this podcast, Making Speed, when I reached out to you guys. So, forgive me for that. I've watched some of the episodes. I didn't even know it was on there. So I apologize for that. But it's a great show. You've got some really influential car people on that. I've watched some of the episodes awesomely.
Yeah, we were very regular and consistent with it, but the pandemic has caused us to have more business than we had before, which makes absolutely no sense. So it's taken a back seat for a second, which I don't like, but it's given us a little bit of opportunity. We've upgraded our equipment a little bit, and we've got a really cool podcast kind of room set up that if we get people in person, it works great. So it's been nice. It's kind of cool to just get on and chat with people in the car business. And we've a lot of the shows we planned on going to this year were canceled, so it's allowed us to connect to people in the industry, without being at the actual show. So I've enjoyed it quite a bit.
Well, yeah, me too. And so we're picking up the slack where you guys are too busy for it, and we enjoy it like you do, and we're going to try to keep the momentum going. We've transitioned to a lot of Zoom meetings and in our podcast land, and in the middle of the summer we got aggressive. We were dragging Doug and Marisa down here, and we had Week to Wicked Jason down here, and we had really cool guests, and we were like, okay, this is it, man. We're bringing in their cool cars or their builds into the shop, and then we're having a guest and we're interviewing him, and that was a lot of fun. Sometimes it was hot.
Yeah, right.
But and that was really cool. And then this thing picked back up again. I'm like, God, you can't plan anything more than 2 or 3 months, because the next thing you got a spike or it goes away or whatever the hell. But this, I don't know. We got a bad case of ADHD with this pandemic. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's hard to be consistent and do stuff regularly, and certainly hard to plan, because like I was saying, we've had a bunch of stuff that we were really excited about doing and shows we were going to go to that were canceled. So we were actually just about to go, and coming up soon, we're going to go out to Barrett and hopefully buy some vehicles out there. and we had a vehicle we were going to compete in the Barrett Jackson Cup with, which used to be, which was connected with Hot August Nights. If you remember, they had like the Hot August Nights, Cup was connected to Barrett. So we're excited to go do that. But that is now not canceled, but postponed until March, because I assume they probably started to get a lot of pushback from Scottsdale, just with the large gathering they were going to have there. So anyway, not officially canceled, but pushed down the road, which has kind of been the state of affairs. So.
Yeah, and you just got to have a lot of compassion for these businesses, in particular, these, auction companies. They've really learned to redesign and reconfigure themselves. We had Muffy Bennett on early on during the pandemic, and she was actually our first Zoom meeting. And what is it, Russ? She's got not Russo and Steele, but anyway, there's 2 auction houses that she's responsible for, and Leak, and I'm trying to think of the name of the other one, but it doesn't matter. But anyway, she said that they were doing a lot of business digitally anyway, and so basically it's allowed them to really hone their skill sets digitally and online for these auctions. So I think these auction houses have really done a good job of pivoting and responding to the changing dynamic. But to me, I don't know, the auction is an event. It's a happening. It's more than just
exactly
and selling cars. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sure that the auction companies that were set up and doing stuff digitally, Leak, I think was bought by Ritchie Brothers, and I know they have a strong digital format. So for them, I bet it was something where they just pivoted right into it, and were able to expand on that. But like you said, the auctions, they're not just buying and selling cars. It's the same deal as, a big good guy show or SEMA. You see all the familiar faces, that I've been going to car auctions for, I don't know, almost 20 years now. And I know every time I go in there, there's 30 people I know that I've been seeing for that long. We all joke around, we go out and eat dinner, so it's not just buying the cars, it's hanging out with those good car people and the conversations we all have and all the commonalities we have. So there's not a great replacement for that in the digital world. But I was definitely bummed when Barrett got canceled, because in terms of any auction that I've ever been to, Barrett is always the one I look at and say, that's the most fun. A lot of people show up for it, obviously, from buyers to spectators. Plus, everything's no reserve, and that just makes the experience a whole lot more fun, because it's going to sell. Everything is going to get up there and it's not going to sell. And when something has a reserve on it and it bids and then doesn't sell, it's kind of like all right. But Barrett's able to build on this steam, and the excitement just builds and builds because everything sells. So there's I think only a few reserve cars at Barrett, and I think they have to be something like $800,000 or more. So their sale rate's 99 point whatever 8. Everything sells, which is exciting. So anyway, there's no replacement for that in the digital world, but I hopefully we're kind of back to a more normal world in 2021. We'll see, though. It's hard to know at this point.
Yeah, it sure is. I hope to see you out there. I think they moved it to March, so maybe we'll see you out there. Hey, so let's talk about the inspiration of you opening up Classic Car Studio Speed Shop.
Yeah.
What inspired you? Was there some thing that you had some mentorship, or were you just was it a natural evolution of you just kind of building your way up to that point?
Yeah, so I was always a car nut. This is kind of, I realized early on, I remember being 5 or 6 years old and being obsessed with cars, whatever it was. It could be an old car, it could be a newer sports car. So that's always been with me, and I always wanted to get into the car business, but didn't really have any family members that were in the car business. So I kind of stepped in it, and not into this business, but I ended up in the car business, not randomly, but I didn't expect to, and I wasn't planning to work in the car business necessarily, but I was going back to college for more college, because that's what I thought I really needed to make it work in this world, because that's what I was taught, which could be true or might not be true. But I started working in the car business for a second, and I had a sales job. I had never had one before, and I was 22, And I loved it. Like, this is the coolest thing ever. I didn't know I could do this. So I never went back and got my MBA, and I worked for somebody. He bought and sold exotic cars and classic cars. I decided after about a year and a half of doing that I could, do it on my own. So, which is also, I always look back, that was kind of interesting because I didn't really have an entrepreneurial spirit at any other time in my life, but that was it. So I was 24. I started Classic Car Studio, and initially we just bought and sold cars. So
right.
I didn't have much to my name, but Manheim Auto Auctions gave me a credit line because they knew if I didn't sell it, they could take it all back and run it back through their auction. So if you want to get into the car business and you're not sure how, check with Manheim, because they lent me money and I didn't own any property. I had a car that was worth nothing. And anyway, so I started doing that, and it kind of evolved from there. It's always been kind of a slow burn where we've been pretty cautious about, moving forward and wanting to make sure to do it the right way. But essentially, started buying and selling cool cars, had to work on them, hired a couple technicians, bought some equipment, kind of kept that going, started working on some outside projects for people, and then very quickly, got into restoration stuff because it's the most interesting, for me, and the creative process is there, and the start and finish. There's so much cool stuff. We could talk for hours just on that. So, we're I think our 14th year of business now.
Okay.
And
congrats.
We've been deep into the restoration for about, I'm lost in the timeline of the company now, but over 10 years.
Wow.
We've been doing restoration work, and it gets better every year. It's just really cool. It keeps, we just kind of stay at it, and we keep the projects get crazier. All of our team here gets more talented every year. They want to learn, they want to get better, they want to improve, and that all rolls into an awesome and finished product. So
yeah, I can 100% agree with that. Like I said, I saw Tiffany, I think that's her name, that C10 truck. She was amazing.
Yeah.
At SEMA, and I guess I was just blown away with the creativity. And then I've seen your 59 Chrysler 300, and I've seen, that recently you sent me some pictures of that. Is it a 55 Chevy, that green one? Or 50?
Yeah, 55 Chevy was a really cool high-end build for us.
So what is there a style? Is there a signature build that you look at and say, hey, that's our style? Or is it more driven by, your customers' expectations, or somewhere in the middle?
I think it's somewhat, I think we've created a style that it's a weird thing, because initially, I think about this, it's initially you want to have a style, but you don't have any customers for it. So you spend a lot of effort trying to convince customers to kind of go your way and, do something a little bit different. And, but there's a point where it kind of tips in your favor and they want to do something similar to another build you've done. So it took a while to get there, but, and when we arrived there, we didn't really recognize it. But it all of a sudden got easier selling jobs, and people were coming to us to do. But, for us, it's been a matter of doing a lot of builds. You have to do a lot of builds and put a lot of builds out there for people to kind of pick up what you're putting down. But we try to build nice, clean, timeless stuff. We can, it's fun to build wacky stuff like Tiffany the truck. That's fine. The general public doesn't usually like to step out that far and do something that wild and crazy. Right. They love it, but they don't necessarily want to own it. So, overall, we like a nice, clean style, something that's going to look timeless. I usually say, with the exception of the wheels, wheel styles come and go, and, people hate them and love them, and they come back and they forgot that they hated them because they love them again. But we the average, our average build, is a kind of an old shell with all new stuff in it. So
right. I think that 55 certainly fits the bill with all the customization on the interior and the engine compartment. Yeah. And I mean, I just look at that. It's like a piece of jewelry everywhere you look, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So it's great insight, I think, for a lot of us car guys and gals that, hey, these shops have to put out a lot of product, and then customers respond to different vehicles and different styles to influence what they want to get done. That makes a lot of sense. Thanks for sharing that with us. If I got it correct.
Yeah. It's a weird kind of curve in terms of how, you can't always build what you want to build. You really have to build what the customer wants to build. But there's a point where they kind of buy into your style, and the style comes from collaboration inside the shop. That's not me just saying, oh, it's what we do. It's us sitting around in meetings and planning and coming up with renderings and design work that the customers like, and then kind of executing that. So,
is there a Chip Foose type person that's doing the rendering, or is rendering shared? Is it computerized? Give us a rough idea how that goes.
So we do it a couple different ways. We've done a lot of work with Eric Brockmeyer. He's awesome, and Eric is an amazing designer. And one of the things, besides one of the things that works, why I think we work really well with Eric, is because his designs translate well into reality, whereas a lot of renderings you'll see look too cartoony, and I feel like that leaves a lot of open ends in terms of customer expectations. And I always say we're going to build you this rendering. We're going to here's the interior, here's the exterior, here are the engine compartments, here are all these design elements. We want to build that exact rendering, because if you're happy with that, you're going to be happy. If you're happy with this rendering, that's what we're going to build. But some renderings are too cartoony or too unrealistic to really translate into reality. So that's an important part of working with Eric.
Yeah,
we also do a lot of it. We also do a lot of internal design. We have our fabricator, Scott France. He's an amazing artist. Molly, one of the women that works in our interior shop, she's also an incredible artist. So we lean on our team a lot for design work, and then meet and try to just kind of flush everything out, eliminate any open questions with the customer, then move forward from there.
Yeah, what you're talking about is something we discovered. We talked to Troy Ladd from Hollywood Hot Rods. We had him on quite a while ago, and we were talking about this idea of artist versus fabricator, or artisan versus fabricator. And he's like, yeah. So he had to talk through how it evolves, but it sounds like, honestly, you have to have a shop full of artisans, and maybe they didn't start off as artisans they're in their career or when they joined your shop, but eventually this is really just as much an art form as it is a work form, if those are okay terms.
No, it is, and that's a pretty accurate description. So we've had a number of our technicians have worked in the dealership world, and that's where they worked for many, many years. And they were kind of car enthusiasts on the side, and they were building cool products on the side, going to, they'd always been there in whatever, street racing, building hot rods, whatever it might be. So we've had a lot of success in having techs come over from the dealership world and work here. I've also, we've got a couple amazing team members that didn't actually work in the automotive world, but just did incredible work on the side. So they came in and, kind of turned into full-time artists working here. So it's kind of interesting the way it goes, but we've definitely been able to create a place that's kind of a haven for people that want to do this kind of high quality work, which is, the opportunity to do that. And, your average job may or may not be there depending on how the company is structured. Certainly at a lot of corporate levels, it's more about efficiency and getting it done and profit. But I feel like we in the automotive world bend profit a lot in favor of kind of doing something amazing. So it's like, we'll eat a bunch of whatever. We'll eat some of that profit to make this engine compartment that much nicer and just make it look cool and be able to have something that really is a standout, amazing build. So.
Well, thanks for sharing that. That's great insight. We love what you're doing there and love the priorities. Hey, let's take a minute and thank one of our awesome sponsors. Are you looking for a smarter way to charge your car's battery? Our friends at CTEK lead the way in the care and maintenance of vehicle batteries. CTEK's unparalleled knowledge and continuous investment in innovation means they offer high quality, reliable chargers that are effective, easy to use, and most importantly, safe for the user and their car's electric system. The quality of CTEK's products make them the trusted company of the world's most recognized car brands. Get yours today at smartercharger.com and type in the code SoCal all caps at the checkout and get 10% discount on all CTEK products. We got those CTEK chargers everywhere in these 2 buildings I have, and they're lifesavers. So
I actually own about 15 CTEK chargers, and they work very, very well and consistently, which is what we need. You hook it up and you walk away, and it's good to go. So
yeah, we can't afford to have stuff not work. I mean, the recondition button is my favorite.
Right.
But my God, if that can't handle it, nothing can, Then
exactly. If this doesn't fix it, we're going to need a new battery.
Yeah, I call my repair guy. Hey, got a dead battery. I don't even have them tested.
No.
Hey, so it didn't sound like you grew up in a car family per se, but where do you give some credit to this car fabrication and design DNA to somebody, or could it be nurture or nature? Where do you come down on?
I don't know where it came from. It was weird. I used to I tried to get my parents I remember being little, trying to get my parents to buy cool cars, and I was really young. We were going to the dealership and sitting in these cars, and this is the one you need to buy. This is it. And they'd buy something. Like, they just were not car people whatsoever. One of my uncles, but I was always wondering, what's the deal? Like, I think it was in me and ready to go. It just had to be kind of lit on fire by something. So one of my uncles, I grew up in Chicago. One of my uncles that had grown up in Chicago, and my dad's I guess he's technically a cousin, but my dad's first cousin, he was into Corvettes in a major way, and we'd go up and visit him, and he had Corvettes and he had these speedboats, and I was like, this is the coolest guy ever. Like, let me tell you about my uncle. That was me, like 7 years old. Let me tell you about my uncle. This guy is incredible. He's got Corvettes that are faster than anything you've ever been in. So, and then when I was really little, I had my parents' friend. He was an obstetrician, and the guy, I think he made a lot of money one year, and someone told him to go spend some of it, and he bought a 911. And I remember going for a ride in it, like to this day, like just being like obsessed with this car. And I was 5. I mean, I was little. My kids do not care about cars on the level that I did when I was 5. But so after these, like, I had a few experiences, and then I would ride my bike to car shows, and I just walk around and talk to people and look at stuff, and they're probably like, "Who is this weird little kid?" So I always found my own way. I'm not the guy, everybody's like, I grew up working in the garage with my dad on, that just wasn't me, and that would have been cool, but that's not, that's not how I got here.
So it's awesome that we saved you from the scrap heap of boring corporate gigs, right?
I almost went there. Oh man.
I know. So your mom and dad, you brought them up. They probably were thinking, hey, we're gonna send him off, and Noah's gonna come out. He's gonna be a biologist or an accountant or a computer programmer, right? And little did they know,
I thought that was I always talk about careers with people, and I try to, I don't know. I feel like the United States is a pretty cool place, because you really, there's some barriers that some people are up against that, it's hard, depending on where you grow up, and, certainly how much money you have. And there's some stuff that can be up against you, but I do believe that anybody, no matter who they are, where they're from, can do whatever they want in the United States. So I always try to impress that upon people, because I always thought that I had to work in an office and in the corporate world. And if I didn't do that, I was going to be like a total failure. So I had this stuck in my head, which is why I went down the educational path I went down. And I'm glad I did, but it's a weird kind of thing that I always look around and I'm like, man, this is cool that I'm doing this. I could have been doing, something else. And that works really well for people. But for me, sitting in an office all day long, that's not going to go so well.
I've done that a couple of times in different parts of my life. I've had 2 or 3 other careers. I did aerospace engineering for a while. I did high-tech marketing for a while. And here I am doing, car storage for, car crazy people, and we got big buildings, and it's a lot of fun. And so, this is the most fun I've had. There's been opportunities where I made more money, or
Sure.
where money's a little more predictable. But
Right.
it's almost impossible to have this much fun and be working.
Right.
At the same time, I think in our business, you know what I mean? In fact,
I always, yeah. And you know, that car people are car culture and car people are, you know, it's good, powerful, you know, positive vibe stuff. And I think that goes, you know, a long way. And, you know, I always found that like the car culture was helpful and wanted to see other people succeed, and
absolutely.
everybody works together, even in, you know, there's not like a weird level of amongst like different car builders out there, and even people buying and selling classic cars. There's no like weird competitive thing going on. It's just like everybody's kind of, you know, working together and sharing what they do. And hey, we use this, you should try that. Or hey, we use that. There isn't, you know, people aren't really competing for customers. It's a different deal, and that's not the way it is in the rest of the world. So I don't know. There's so many positive things, you know, about the hobby. I could go on for hours, but
yeah. Well, hey, speaking of, you know, you guys have been getting a lot of press and ink, and you know, your builds are amazing, and so you got all this reputation from the various publications and events like SEMA, and then at some point, right, all this goodwill results in somebody knocking on your door and said, "Hey, man, you want to do a TV show?" And you're like, "Say what?" So tell us that story. How did this Speed is the New Black thing come to fruition, if you will? If you don't mind giving us a background on that one, that's pretty cool.
yeah, no, that's no. So it was never part of a plan, and in terms of this business, and in fact, I wasn't, in the back of my head, I didn't want to be in a TV show or think we were going to ever do anything like that. So it kind of fell into our lap in a weird way. But one of my customers works with a company that basically pitches TV shows and sells concepts for TV shows. You know, TV shows are usually thought of by somebody, come up with a concept, maybe make a little sizzler, and then if that person has done work with the network before, the network will probably give them the time of day, talk to them, and you have the opportunity to pitch your TV show.
Right.
Outside of that, you're probably never going to get a TV show if those things aren't really lined up as far as I've been able to see. So this customer of ours, they had actually pitched early on Gas Monkey Garage, Fast and Loud. So a really
talk about a home run.
It was a home run. That is for sure 100% a home run. If you're going to sell a show and you sell Fast and Loud, you've won the TV show sales thing. So so very, very early on, Richard and Aaron they came by. They wanted to shoot. They were trying to shoot like a little sizzler episode, Fast and Loud. And the original concept of the show was them driving around in like a beat up old Camaro. It was more like diners, drive-ins, and dives, but with them, which couldn't work. So it ended up being something completely different. But that came and went. I still knew these guys. And one day they came in and they're like, "Hey, what do you think about doing a TV show?" And I was, I don't know, man. I don't know about that. But in the back of my head, I'm like, you got to try everything once if it's not too crazy. So we shot this little sizzler, which was basically like me talking about the stuff we build, some B-roll of guys working, sparks flying, cars getting painted, stuff driving fast. And they're like, "All right, cool. We'll let you know." And I forgot about it. It went away. So all of a sudden they were like, "Hey, we got a show, I think. We got to talk to some more people, but we've been pitching it to these different networks, and Velocity is really interested." So anyway, the long and short of it is that we ended up having, all of a sudden we went from, you know, not having a show to, within a period of 3 months, starting to film a show. So, which was crazy and life-changing and stressful and way too much work, but also very rewarding and something I'll always look back on as a really an amazing time. So
Yeah, what an opportunity, what a lifetime experience. And, I can't imagine adding a TV show on top of running your business.
it's a little crazy. It's
I mean,
a little crazy.
That sounds like, adding just another full-time job on top of.
Right. Yeah. It's about the equivalent of having two full-time jobs. So it's when, it always start off, we kind of like get into it. We get our bills lined up, customers that start coming in, we, start interviewing them. And then all of a sudden it was 100 hours a week. And then it was 100 hours a week. So basically it's about 100 hours a week for 8 months or so. That's about how long it took us to.
So how many, did you guys do it for how many seasons? I can't remember.
We did 2 seasons.
Okay, 2.
Yep, 2 seasons. And then our network, Velocity, merged with another network, merged with Motor Trend,
yep.
And they kind of had a different plan for everything at that point. All the magazines went away. A lot of the TV shows went away. It was just a big change, and we got caught up in that, and that was that for the TV show. So in the end, really, I don't know, kind of a blessing, and it was hard, to involve, in doing the TV show. It wasn't just me. It was, everybody that works here on this team and all of their families. They all got roped into this crazy schedule. So it's hard to. We're at the point where I feel like we were probably going to lose a lot of our employees that are really great people. Yeah, it's a lot of stress and it's a lot of work. Also a lot of fun, but it's not something you can do forever. And retain people. So.
The one that I always still smile about is the titles junior and senior, and everybody debates about whether the tension between those two was legit. And I tell you what, you cannot make that kind of stuff up. You can't produce that. But I think when you layer on a TV show on top of families working together, that's just like dynamite. That's like adding TNT to the mix. And that was, to me, that's perfect television. I mean, they got exactly probably what they wanted for, but, they might have ruined the family for a little while. You know what I mean? Crazy.
Yeah, the really dramatic build shows, I think, a lot of them were fueled by the fact that show really worked so well. And you wonder, it's like how much of this stuff is real and how much of it isn't. But I think, once they got into it, the directors probably poked the bear a lot and got a lot more drama than was probably really there.
But said about you?
Yeah, I mean, they know what they're doing. So we actually, when we did our show, we sought out to do the exact opposite. We said, let's let the cars be the stars here. There's a lot of drama there. There's a lot of stuff going wrong. Like, I don't think we need to be the central focus. I think that these builds can really shine, and we got a lot of positive feedback in terms of that. People said, "Oh man, it was nice to see something a little bit different." We're like, "Yeah, that's what we wanted to do, and that's how it worked out."
Yeah, you guys, it's a great show. So if anybody hasn't seen it, go out there and watch them. They're probably on Motor Trend now, right? So
they are on Motor Trend. You can stream them on Motor Trend.
But you're also gonna find them on your YouTube page, if I'm not mistaken. So they're out there ready to be streamed. So
they are. You can watch them on YouTube in Portuguese if you want, but if you want to see them in English, you can. The licensing is different from other countries, so there's a lot of it's on YouTube with subtitles and from different countries. But if you want to see them in English, you can watch them on.
Awesome. So
watch them on Motor Trend. So.
Hey, another shout out for one of our sponsors, Wicked Mobile Auto Detailing. Wicked is a luxury mobile detailing, paint restoration, and paint protection service right here in sunny Southern California. Another sunny day, of course, here today. They specialize in high-end paint correction, self-healing ceramic and graphene coatings, clear bra, and many other services. Check out their YouTube channel, Wicked Auto Detailing, and see their professionalism, perfection, and unbeatable customer service, which can always be expected from a Wicked service. Also, call them at 617-901-1417 and give your car the devilish good looks it deserves. So, hey, I want to switch gears a little bit. You mentioned that you're putting a lot of the latest technology in these cars. You're trying to keep the honor, if you will, the brilliant designs like that 55 Chevy and not ruin a good thing. So that's kind of a classic approach, but, putting in a lot of the latest and greatest in technology, whether it be the engine and or the suspension. Can you talk about, Noah, a little bit about the latest and the greatest in both the engine compartment and maybe the suspension that's going into these vehicles?
Yeah, absolutely. One of our goals, no matter how nice the vehicles are, is for our customers to drive them a lot. And in order for them to drive them a lot, a few things have to happen. They've got to be fun, which give them a bunch of horsepower and big brakes and nice suspension. You can make that happen. They also have to be somewhat reliable. So we spend a lot of time going into that. So for almost every build now goes on a chassis. We do a lot of roadster shop chassis, which are just amazing. They've got a few different lines of chassis.
So do you do that even on a car with a unibody construction, like a pony car, like a Mustang, Cougar, a Camaro? You still frame those out with an art mold?
We do, and we do that sometimes. So we're doing a Fairlane right now, which is a unibody type construction. That's going on a full roadster shop chassis. And when you do a build like that, you have to cut the floor out, which is fine. It's some additional work. We also work with Detroit Speed and engineering quite a bit. They make some amazing first and second generation Camaro stuff that just drives it'll blow your socks off. I love that stuff. So we usually use those two companies. We've also done some really cool stuff with TCI. We've worked a lot with RideTech. They've got some great bolt-on stuff. So really try to figure out what the customer is looking to do with the platform, and then put together a package for them that's going to work in terms of the suspension. But it's come a long way. Air ride systems are way better than they've ever been. And these companies are spending a lot of time, getting you the correct components. We corner balance all the cars. We get the weights right. We get the right spring rates in. The shocks are really amazing. Fox is doing some killer stuff right now. So yeah, really the base of all these builds is the suspension and the braking system. With the brakes, people keep using bigger brakes, but we found that like the master cylinders they were using and the way they were setting them up, if the car's got too big of a cam, they've got 14-inch rotors and 6-piston calipers, and the things barely stop. So we find a lot of stuff we do, like the pedal ratios are wrong, the master cylinder's wrong. So we've come up with a few different brake packages that will scare you because they stop so hard, and that's important because you're adding a lot of horsepower, and the stuff just can't look good. It can't just look good in our opinion. It's got to really perform. So
plus a lot of those old systems like brakes were drawing vacuum off the engine, right? And so
they are.
That's another problem when you put a big lopey cam in a car and then you're sucking off.
Terrible.
So yeah. What do you do? Do you modify your brake systems and?
So we offer three different options when you're using a monster cam. People still like that big block sound. A lot of that's gonna come from obviously the size of the engine, the exhaust system it's running, but also the kind of cam it has in it. So we'll offer people three different options if their cam's too big. We could do a manual brake setup, which feels good. It's got to be someone who likes more like performance stuff, race car feel. You always know where you are in the brakes. Maybe you have to push a little bit harder. They're not hard. It's not a hard pedal like a system that's not working correctly. We have a very large vacuum pump we've been using to get more vacuum with stuff that has big cams, and it's been great. It's loud, so that's one thing that maybe people don't want, but it does work well for minimal investment. Finally, there are electric master cylinders with an electric pump, and they also work really, really well. And unlike the Hydro Boost systems, you're not blending the power steering system and the brake system together. It's a standalone independent system, and they also stop really, really hard. So I always kind of talk to people about it and what kind of feel they're going to get out of the different systems, and they'll usually find the best option that in terms of the different feel from those brake systems that they're going to get.
That's just an example in one area how the technology has evolved. I mean, quite frankly, I'm kind of a dummy on this stuff, but I didn't know there were electronic braking systems.
Yeah, and electronic steering systems that are they don't feel half bad. They're pretty nice as well.
So what about under the hood? No, all right. Is your a base platform like an LS7, an LT1, or what is table stakes these days? I mean, some of the cars in our warehouse here at SoCal Classic, we've got LS1s, LS3s, LS7s,
Sure.
LS1s. I mean, it's all over the place, or does it really depend on the build?
It really depends on the build. And again, it's something where we really want to talk to the customer, figure out how they're going to drive it. If it's someone who wants to go around and cruise and have a really reliable platform, we're not going to sell them a 1500 horsepower engine, that's going to be some total wild platform. But fuel injection, everybody wants fuel injection on everything these days. Our choice, we usually go with an LS platform. If they want, just a simple, reliable 600 horsepower platform, we'll usually go with an LS engine. Tried and true stuff. A lot of cool parts been developed for them, from the fuel systems, the cooling systems, the engines themselves. We've got some great stuff we use. So GM Connect and Cruise is amazing for somebody who just wants something to, hop in it and really kind of go. We'll do a little bit of tweaking HP tuners on that stuff, and that's about it. Holley makes some amazing products as well. If somebody wants a throttle body style look on an LS engine, Holley has some really, really good Dominator, Terminator, all that stuff is wonderful. We've done some great engines through a number of different companies for real high horsepower stuff as well, whether they're looking for forced induction via a supercharger or turbochargers. There's guys doing LS and LT stuff now that's just like insane and pretty darn reliable and making all the power on pump gas. So there's a lot of different options out there.
Plethora of options, it sounds like, and a lot of it's customer driven, but the technology is there. I think one of the things you said earlier is rings true for me. Because we are responsible for about 90 plus cars between these two buildings, and some of these are very custom builds that took years to do, and lots of a big investment in time. Some of them are still being sorted out years later. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, for sure.
They go out, they come back with another problem, and they got some big names on them as far as who the builders were.
Yeah.
No fault to them, but it's very difficult to replicate the type of reliability you get on a large scale production operation.
Absolutely.
Like General Motors or Chevy or Camaros or Mustangs. So
yeah,
I think that's the challenge, right? Like, how do you not kill your shop and your profit and still deliver reliability, because you don't spec out spending hundreds of hours of sorting out the car, but how do you put that kind of in the design so you don't have to spend 50 hours? Like, so how do you can you give some insight into how you guys do that?
A lot of it's through failure. We've realized what stuff worked well for us and what stuff didn't work well. A lot of the lessons in this business are very, very expensive. So you say, I'm never doing that again, or we can't do that, or this is a component combination we're not going to do. But at the end of the day, you've got all these different components that by themselves may be very well engineered, but when you put them all together, you start having issues. So you have to know what works and you have to know what doesn't work. And the only way to get there is through experience and having done this stuff before. So we really lean on our team here, when we're designing the cars, and past experiences to help create, really positive, reliable future experiences. I am personally a big fan of simplicity. You can complicate these things, and the more stuff you add, the more reliability issues you're going to have in the future, because you're just giving yourself a lot more options for stuff to break down. So, there's something to be said.
Well, some of the simple things that drive me crazy about some of these custom builds are the simple things like push button starts as opposed to key starts, or trunk releases that are electronic that don't work. And then you got a backup cable system, and somehow the cable, like your bicycle, comes off in the trunk, so.
Oh yeah.
And then, but that drives me crazy because of my business. But, like somebody will say, hey, Dean, take that beautiful Camaro to that Cruiser for a Cure car show. We get to the gas station, man. We can't get to the fuel because the thing won't open, and I'm like, now I got to go to the body shop over here, So it's the little things, right? It boils down to the little things.
I think that's what separates the, good looking cars from the actually, from the truly nice cars out there is how well they're sorted out. So the longer we do this, the more time we allocate for and spend developing the cars on the back, when they're finished, because everything out there, so many of the cars out there that look to be like 100% and really, really like complete are maybe 95% of the way there, because they were never test driven. The stuff was never tweaked. And you always, it's one of those things where, I don't know, our number gets, first we were at 300 miles, then we were at 500 miles, and now we're almost like 800 to 1,000 miles to be able to tell somebody that the car is really dialed in. And that includes like the weird rattle in the window. That includes, some strange vibration in the drivetrain that you don't know why, is there. Maybe, it could be something in the brake system. It could be some weird electrical thing that only happens, when the car is warmed up and the air conditioning is on and, you're decelerating hard. There's all these weird different combinations of stuff that cause these funky reliability issues. So in order to get around that, there's no other way to do it than get out and drive the vehicles. You got to drive the vehicles. The longer we do it, we're getting better. It's weird. It's like the longer we do this, the less weird problems we have on the back end. But there's always one or two strange things on the back end, and everybody knows these things that it's just killing everybody. Nobody can figure it out.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Well, anyway, it sounds like you guys have, just come a long way, and you're super focused on the customer experience, which is great. Hey, is there any cool, bitchin' products or cars that you're building right now that you want to talk about that's, legendary, or are a lot of these things under wraps and you got to double pinky swear? Do you got anything really awesome going for next year's SEMA, or that you?
We've got some cool stuff going on that's, I think when we started working on them and when our customers had come to us, they were like, this is right up our alley. So, and we kind of keep it under wraps when they're all coming together at the end, but we like to show the process and let people online talk about it, and maybe give them a cool idea for a project they have to do on their own, or maybe it's the guy that wants us to have them build something. So yeah, there's no super top secret stuff, but we're doing an awesome 56 Ford. It's cool because it's a 56 Ford truck. I love trucks, but we're also making it into a 4-door quad cab.
Nice.
So we start off with and it's a dually as well. So it's a pretty dually with a short bed. So the wheelbase isn't that long, but it's a sizable vehicle. So we started off with an F600, and we basically built a new back half for this truck, including the back wall, big back window, all new floors, new rockers. And one of the coolest things about it is it's pillarless. So there's no pillar in the middle where the doors, it has a suicide doors in the rear. So when they close, there's no pillar. It's a straight shot through the entire truck. So really cool metal work, and to make it all work together, Scott and Mark in the fab shop are just killing it, whipping up this stuff, and that's really exciting. We hadn't, we'd never built one before in any form. In fact, we never even worked on one before, but we just did an all original Corvair restoration.
No kidding, you've got a Corvair.
Yeah, all original. It's gonna be over the top, and it's 100% original. And then after we started doing that, one of our customers came to us that we built a Chevelle for. He's like, guys, I want to build a Corvair. We're like, what are you talking? Really? So we've got one that's 100% original, matching numbers, the whole deal, done in the original colors. I mean, we've gone crazy just to make it as precise and close to the factory car as possible. And then we have one that's going to be a front engine twin turbo LS Corvair. So
no kidding.
With a wide body. I mean, it's going to be wacky. So
I can't wait to see that. Hey, I've got a 62 Corvair waiting for some inspiration. Maybe I bring you guys drop like a Porsche 997 motor, and
hey, that's what I want to do. I think that's the deal. I was pushing for the Porsche drivetrain, but this is going to be way more over the top.
We'll work this out. I'm already working on the name. It's called Porsche Air, in case you didn't already know.
There you go.
Yeah, Porsche Air.
Porsche Air.
Sounds like an airline or something stupid, but yeah.
If you use a big enough engine, it will be like an airline. Or some power at that thing.
An old family car. I can't get rid of it. But again, what are you going to do? But man, we've got another one here that's blue and it's a convertible customer's car. And I'm like, drive that thing just, and first sick, you're like, there was something happening here. It's too bad they got really close, to being like Porsche or being like, these air-cooled cars of that era. They just, they were that close.
They were close, and they got a bunch of bad press, and it didn't work out well. Right. So.
Well, sounds awesome, man. I can't wait to see your Ford truck. Sounds like a 58 Cadillac Brougham with the back suicide doors, and love what you're doing there. Going out and doing some cool stuff. Hey, where do folks learn more about your incredible shop and all these awesome builds that are happening at Classic Car Studio, Speed Shop, social media, the web, or wherever?
Let's see. I think I've got 4 places you should go. ClassicCarStudio.com. That's our website. You can go to YouTube. We put a lot of build stuff on YouTube, a lot of process stuff people like to see. We kind of take you to the whole build from start to finish and show everything in between. Facebook, lots of good social stuff on there. And also Instagram. You can see stuff we've got for sale, stuff we're building, and a lot of, like I said, cool process stuff in between. So ClassicCarStudio.com. You can link to any of those places through there.
Awesome. All right. Everybody that's watching, get out there and check out their cool stuff. I did a lot of homework and check out, a lot of your sites that you just mentioned. And, you're sharing a lot of cool stuff. I love the, as you're building, you're sharing, and, the photography is amazing. You guys are making huge investments and giving back to the car community. I think that's important. So, hey, thanks so much, Noah. That was a great ride, a great guest, and hopefully everybody enjoyed it. And, for those of you watching today, don't forget all of our episodes are on our YouTube channel, The SoCal Car Scene, all separate words. We want to make it difficult on you. No, just kidding. You can see all the videos of our awesome guests like Noah. I don't think I can have another Noah next week. I'm going to try. And, of course, yours truly. But please watch, follow, most importantly, subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And if you prefer to listen to these episodes, please go to all your favorite podcast platforms like Apple iTunes, Stitcher, Buzzsprout, Google Play, and the SoCal Car Storage /media page. Hey, thanks everybody for listening and watching.